Going for two, it's your boy here, Dan at the B League Says, coming at you with your week one B Leagues Pick'em show. Thank you very much for tuning in. We are over your X, over your YouTube, all over that sort of jazz. And we are here to talk about your Thursday night and Friday night props, Pick'em props coming to you via Underdog Fantasy. Remember your promo code GF2 for a matching bonus deposit of up to $1,000 on your initial outlay, as always, which is a fantastic thing for teeing up. Thank you, Jeff Lambert. Hope you are well. And another congrats on another successful off-season through the Scott Fishbowl stuff, generating content and all that sort of jazz. It's been another great year, as it would be. But we are here to week one. Before we get started, one more thing. Shout out to Aaron Arms of the Back Row Fantasy show in the past, where I first started doing content. He's going through some tough times. So please, if you want to go over to his Twitter page, go see him over there. He's an absolute legend. Any donation helps him and his family. I don't never ask for nothing from nobody, but this would be the one time where I will. I will post the link when I post the tweet another time. But until that happens, Thursday night, Friday night football, we got a game in Brazil. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I'm going to start teeing off. But we have got that going off, as it would be. We're talking about Thursday night football. Dallas at Philly, the reigning champions, the Philadelphia Eagles, with a first-round matchup, division rival against the Dallas Cowboys, who are just coming off trading Micah Parsons for fucking God knows what, for God knows why. Why? It doesn't even matter at this point. Congratulations to Green Bay for finishing third in your division. That's a great outcome for you, considering all things. But we're going to talk about three props for the first matchup, Dallas at Philly. We're going to talk about Dak Prescott coming back after an injury-plagued season again. We're going to talk about Dak, and we're going to take the lowest hanging fruit. I'm looking at Dak Prescott higher than 6.5 rushing yards. What a way to kick off the season with a cheap fucking quarterback bet. It's a fantastic way to go. We're going to go rushing yards. Dak Prescott presumably has probably, arguably, the worst rushing weapons at his disposal this year. He's got Javonte Williams. He may as well be like an over-bloated Devin Singletary at this point. You've got Jaden Blue, a rookie who has a few issues of his own. Miles Sanders has been around the block, including in Philadelphia. It's just a couple of would-be guys. Last year, it was, a mixture of Zeke and Rico Dowdle or whatever they had. It really was not that inspiring. They haven't really recovered since they had maybe Tony Pollard, and that says a lot because he was mid at best. So here we are talking about the Cowboys. Add a brand new bunch of weapons who are what they are. Maybe a reinvigorated O-line. I feel like they've copped a bad rap because they're not what they were in the past, but I don't think they have been. I think they're a little bit of an upgrade over what they've been over the last season or two. From my friends out in Dallas who have told me otherwise, they're fairly optimistic about what they have going forward, which is what it is. But I know what I know, and this is what it is. Sometimes trust isn't there, and communications fail, and the best thing a playmaker can do is, make an audible and go it alone. And Dak has been in the past pretty good at that sort of thing. So for all these flaws, he's been a solid runner of the ball. He doesn't do it as much as he did when he was a rookie. Was he going at some ridiculous pace where he was going at 6 touchdowns a year for like the first 3 or 4 seasons or whatever it was before he got hurt that initial time? So he is capable of running the ball if he has to. He's been a solid runner through it. And naturally, as he gets older, that slows down. We've seen that with the best of the most mobile quarterbacks, as you can see. Look, about Dak, and it's hard to gauge all this because it's week one and we don't know what we're going to get. Another new play caller and all that sort of stuff. Only twice in his career he's been under 14 rushing yards per game. The last time was in 2021, which was naturally after the year he had that gruesome ankle injury, which was, I think, from the Giants. As it was. Last year he plummeted to 6.8 yards per game, but he holds a near 15 yards per game against the Eagles rushing in his career. So the Eagles still have one of the best fronts in the NFL. I don't think that's a shock to say. And they have lost a few guys, but I still feel like they're going to be able to move him about. And if he does have to move and he doesn't like what's around, I can see him getting some cheap yards that way. Pick number 2, we're going to go back. Again, go to those IDP props. You know how I like them. Kenneth Murray, lower than 8.5 combined tackles and assists. Now, this is a bit of a weird one to go with an IDP prop purely because depth charts are what they are. Now, weird option to be thrown in there because there's a huge chance at best he's their 3rd or 4th linebacker off the rip. And I say that in the nicest possible way because you're talking about Jack Sanborn, who's had the green dot pretty much all offseason, and Maris Luafau, he's been their number 2. And you're talking about working in Damon Clark as well. So, kind of. Listen, if he's the starter, then, yeah, against Philly, anybody who's lining up against Philly at that linebacker spot should be able to get 8, 9 combined. I just don't think he's the guy that's going to line up from the start. Now, our lads has him projected above Jack Sanborn. Again, he hasn't been playing above him the whole offseason. It's been Sanborn with the green dot the whole time. So I kind of feel like this might be a bit of a fugazi here when we see props in that regard. I kind of don't buy it. So, it's a volatile prop at best. And that volatility with especially like linebackers, I kind of can't buy into it. So for me, if you see a Sanborn prop for 8.5, I'm probably taking it at that point because he's been the guy the whole offseason. But Kenneth Murray kind of hasn't been in and about that first rotation of linebackers. I kind of don't see it happening for him at 8.5. Pick number 3, we're going to go Devonta Smith, lower than 54.5 receiving yards, but we're going to give him the touchdown. I feel like he's got a touchdown up his sleeve. I'm going to get into that in a bit. Look, for starters, the touchdown prop has yet to drop. So I just want to go into that eventually. You know how these props come last minute. Okay, damage control to a degree. They don't want to give out a prop they feel like they're going to lose. But, it is what it is. For what it's worth, he's averaged a touchdown a game versus the Cowboys over the last 3 seasons. 4 of those 6 has been at home as well. So, which they are this week. So I kind of like that. Obviously, a bit of rotation with that Dallas secondary. A lot of those guys, Deron Bland, Trevon Diggs, they were injured for the last year or so. They've been hurt. Who knows what they are? Who knows what those guys are going to be week 1 against the reigning champions. I don't know if we're going to get what we saw straight away. It might take them a few weeks to work in, but either way, let's work into his targets and yards. Look, it's a bit of an odd thing to follow. His rookie year, he was hindered, but all over over the last 3 seasons, his targets have come down against the Cowboys, but he's still averaging good 6 for 4. So, 6 for 4 is not too bad and a good 7 yards per game against the division rival. You can't hate that. The problem is the erratic nature of how it comes about. Only last season was the first time he's gone over this quota at home, and that was in week 17 when the Cowboys were pretty much dead. Like, they were done, right? Week 17 last year, the Cowboys were gone. So the idea that he can punch that massive quota against the Cowboys at Philadelphia, I feel like the numbers aren't telling you the story if you just look at it from a broad spectrum. So I feel like maybe it's the same old. He goes for what he gives you at the link. That's not too bad either, but until that line drops before 50, I don't think I'm interested in touching going over. So we're going to go under 54.5 at that point. And I can see people wanting to hit the overs on that, and that'll creep up too. So you might get a bit of a buffer come Friday. Or Thursday, sorry. Jamie, how you doing, my brother? Hope you had a great summer. How about them Browns? We're going to talk about them a little bit later. Actually, on another show, I'm doing 2 shows today, Jamie. So I'm going to talk some Cleveland Browns. Talk some Joe Flacco. Come on, Flacco. Go on, get in there. We're going to get into some Flacco talk on the Sunday show, which I'm going to do after this. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Let's talk about Friday night football. The Chiefs at Chargers. Now, let me get one thing started. You're going to talk about all this fucking interest that no one has in the offseason, all this preseason bullshit. You can't go overseas and do your preseason training in Brazil or London or Germany or Australia. Hey, listen, Australia got a game. They get Melbourne, I think, in 2027. I don't want to see them play a game out there. Do you know how far away that is? For those guys, it's a 26-hour flight. What are you doing going to Brazil? 12, 13-hour flight, week 1. This is the sort of shenanigans you send those 4th and 5th stringers for to figure out if they can handle it or not. You're going to go to Brazil week 1. It's a division rival game. The Chiefs are struggling to get anyone in their seats, and arguably the biggest draw in the NFL, the Chiefs at home, and you can't give them that. What the fucking fuck is this about? It is the dumbest idea that I've ever fucking seen. Let's go take division rivals, a rivalry game, fucking kill any idea of home field advantage in a game of such magnitude and send it to fucking Brazil, who don't even give a shit. Fuck me. Dumb. Either way. Let's get on with the picks. I've just lost my mind. I could go for days about this stupid shit. It's just dumb. Fuck me. Either way. Travis Kelce, higher than 51.5 receiving yards. I'm not going to bring up the obvious, but the state has had a more distracted off-season than past. Probably not much of an understatement, but I will say this. Active plays with podcasts seem to be too comfortable for my liking. What's up, Micah Parsons? Fuck's sake. Either way, he's comfortable. He's at where he's at. But, comfortable is his thing. He's really a comfortable sort of guy. Like, he's been coasting the last year or two, hasn't he? So he's where he is. Speaking of where he's at, he went 50% last year for games over 51.5 as it was. So he either did well or he didn't. That's where it was. That's what he was in that regard. And he also started, I believe, if I remember correctly, he hurt his ankle, I feel like a week or two leading in the season, but he started off 3 for 25. Maybe I'm wrong. I I don't remember, but I feel like that's what happened because I remember the tight ends were in a bit of flux. Mark Andrews was in the car accident, I think, and Travis Kelce did the ankle. I feel like that happened. I could be wrong, but he had a slow start to the season. Look, as always, he's normally pretty good against the Chargers. Last year, he averaged 6 for 67. And, he has a bunch of games versus the Chargers in his catalog with 120-plus yard games versus them at home and or away. Adding to it, no Rashee Rice again. A settled run game because, last year, how about that for flux? Unbelievable. And I could see a balanced display where he can get us to 60 yards. Pick number 2, we're going to pick on Justin Herbert a little bit because I feel like that's the on vogue thing to do. Drinking game. What has he got here? I really should read what you say first. Take a shot every time you say fuck. Makes you have... Yeah, I do drink. I do swear a lot. I'm sorry. It's just one of those things. I'm actually quite sick at the moment, and I have no patience or tolerance for nothing. I'm actually in a bad mood. So I'm giving it my best, and, the frustrations. A sweater was a bad choice. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm wearing a sweater indoors, and it is hot as hell, and I'm just sweating it out right now. Just a terrible idea. And, I'm really flustered at this point. But, we're going to pick on Justin Herbert a little bit, lower than 226.5 passing yards. Let me start off by going easy here. Prior to Harbaugh turning up at the Chargers a year ago, look, in 7 games, Herbert averaged a massive, and this is unbelievable when you look into it, he averaged a massive 305 passing yards per game against the Chiefs. Against the Chiefs, he averaged 305 yards per game. In his 2 games versus the Chiefs last year, with Harbaugh as head coach, dropped down 190 yards a game. He averaged 190. It's like nearly 110, 115 yard difference there. But just for a new coach, how do you drop 110 yards? Mad. Absolute mad. So we're already having a 36-yard buffer on this prop from 226.5 from what he's giving us at 190. I don't think it's going to change too much. And add in a solid run game with Hampton and a convoluted receiver room with, Keenan Allen coming back in. How much do you think you're going to get out of him week 1? It might take him a week or 2 to work in. He's arguably the ultimate professional. Big Keenan Allen fan over here. You're not going to get many bigger than me. But, he's been away for 18 months, 19 months. How much do you expect him to give week 1? And you're not sure what Trey Harris is going to give you. And Quentin Johnson is what he is. No Mike Williams because he's out. Tight ends are up in flux. It's really Ladd McConkey and what else have you got? So a bit of that going on for the Chargers at the moment. The Chiefs are coming off quite possibly their most embarrassing game of the last decade. So, they're not in LA, as I said before. A bit embarrassing for them to have to go to Brazil for a home game to play against the Chiefs on turf in heat. I don't think so. I don't like it for Justin Herbert this week at all. Pick number 3, we're going to go and pick on, again, you know how I love the lowest common denominators. I love taking an easy prop. We're going to look at Xavier Worthy, and we're going to look at higher than 4.5 rushing yards because I am an absolute sucker for wide receiver rushing yards. Because if you've got someone like Worthy who knows how to do it, generally happens. Deebo Samuel's one of those guys. Worthy is the next one up. I feel like it's there for him. For what it's worth, there was only 4 games last season where Xavier Worthy didn't have 1 rushing attempt. And it wasn't until the end of the season where it became a normal thing. He started to really pile it on. They got him really involved. And again, the Chiefs' run game last year, let alone the receiving game, it was absolute filth, really. So we could talk about that being a thing. Look, including the playoffs, he had 4 games with multiple rush attempts. And in those games, he averaged around 16.5 rushing yards. So in games with 1 or no rush attempts, he still averaged 5, which is at the point we're betting on here. So they're saying if he gets 1, he might get 5. That's really where his averages are. So we're betting on him getting at least 1. So I like that as a prop if it comes up during the week. Maybe on Thursday it pops up over half a rushing attempt. I'd probably look into that more, maybe being a bit more comfortable of a line. But it's not a prop right now. It might come up later. So if we are betting on yards, if you think he's good for 1 attempt, he's good for 5 yards. That's generally how it works. The line is at 4.5, so this should be a thing, right? The downside to this was his output versus the Chargers last year. He didn't do anything on the rushing front against the Chargers. I think he had once in week 14, he went 1 for 5. And in week 4, he did nothing. He had no attempts. So I don't know what that was about. So not the best and not the greatest form against the local team that you've played against a few times. It's not really there, but it's something to be mindful of. But if the line for over half a rushing attempt pops up, I'm probably leaning on that a little bit more, but I still feel comfortable at over 4.5 rushing yards. I feel pretty good about that. So let's wrap this up before we get into the Sunday and Monday night game. I'm going to do a separate recording for that because why not? Let's get weird. It's just too much at one point. But let's get into this, as it were, and recap. As always, Underdog Fantasy promo code GF2 for $1,000 matching bonus deposit from them if you use promo code GF2. Come over to our Discord. It's free. This time of year is when you want to get in. You're talking about waiver wires, trade advice, articles about future pickups, all that, ads, drops, starts, sits, all that sort of stuff. We are pumping with that sort of stuff this time of year, so get amongst it as you should. Pick number 1, Thursday, Dallas at Philly. Dak Prescott higher than 6.5 rushing yards. Pick number 2, Kenneth Murray, lower than a combined tackles and assists, lower than 8.5. Pick number 3, Devonta Smith, lower than 54.5 receiving yards, but we like that touchdown prop if it does pop up. Friday Night Football, Chiefs against the Chargers in Brazil. God damn it. Travis Kelce, higher than 51.5 receiving yards. Pick number 2, Justin Herbert, lower than 226.5 passing yards. And pick number 3, Xavier Worthy, higher than 4.5 rushing yards that week in week 1. Thanks for joining me. I am Dan at the B League Says. I will be with you just shortly, going over Sunday and Monday night's props. Cheers, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.